Hello everybody and good evening. Thank you very much for tuning in to my channel. So the reason I pulled up this screenshot is because this is my current area of interest and what I'm focusing on, and that is programming the PIC 18F4525, which is a microcontroller. And I'm following along in some published material that is like step-by-step instructions on how to configure and program this MCU. So that's what I'm looking at right now. And I just recently have come across in my studies on this some projects which start making use of an LCD screen. Of course, using this MCU, I'm using MPLAB-X. In my efforts to better understand LCD screens, particularly this 1602 LCD display, which actually has a driver chip by Hitachi, I made a video last month on the basic pinouts and basic understanding of all the different pins. It's actually a pretty good video, and it's only 6 minutes, so it's a good introduction. If you're really trying to learn, I actually recommend watching it. What I came across on YouTube was a video of somebody showing how you can actually program these LCD displays by hand without using a microcontroller. And I want to acknowledge the individual who created this video because it is a good video, but realistically, creating a hand-controlled LCD screen is not something new. This video here is from the 8-bit guy, and this is from 4 years ago, and he effectively has done the exact same thing. Most likely this is the register select pin, and he's switching between data and instruction mode. This is probably the enable pin, and he's programming in 8-bit mode, making use of all the data pins. I've watched this video before, maybe a week ago, so I'm not up to date on exactly what's being covered, but basically what's being created here is a hand-controlled LCD. This is a really great project, and I would love to try building something like this myself, but it's just getting away from what I'm currently studying already. So I thought to myself, well, this same type of thing can be achieved just using an Arduino. And I don't mean using the Arduino sketches. Where is it here? There's the include libraries, and then you can go to liquid crystal display, and that should provide a basic sketch or program which makes use of a library which will help program a 1602 LCD display. Well, I don't want to do that either. What I really would like to do is to see if I can program an LCD screen not with some kind of hand device, but just simply with the Arduino turning pins on and off. And I will say already I have done this and have been successful. Even though it's a little bit lengthy of a code, it's actually very simple, because what I did, I just took all the pinouts on the 1602 display, I made them all outputs, and then I kind of initialized them all low. And I mimicked, say, a video like this, where manually the data input lines can be pressed, and then when they're pressed, the enable pin is hit, and then here on this board there's a switch which will do a register select. So if you put it to low, put the register select pin to low, switch it over to ground, then the LCD will be in instruction mode. If you flick the switch over this way and you send power to RS, now you have enabled data mode or data mode, and you can take in high nibbles and low nibbles in 4-byte mode to start accepting characters and displaying them on the screen. Well, I figured that's fantastic, but why not just do that using the Arduino software? Here is the Hitachi data sheet, which lists the different instructions for initializing or setting up your LCD screen, such as clear display, return home, turning the cursor on or off, different things like that. And it lists these several times throughout the data sheet. So what is helpful is if you just take a few essential instructions and make use of them. You don't need all of them to do some simple experimentation with the 1602 display. So I wrote it down here. You can hear the paper. I wrote it down on paper, what I think are some of the most essential instruction codes. So clearing the display and returning home, and the display on-off control. And then what else is necessary is programming in 4-bit or 8-bit mode. I'm not seeing this right away. This isn't really well explained here, but right here, unless I'm wrong, I could be, this is showing how to send an instruction which makes the LCD programmable in 4-bit mode. If you watched my previous tutorial video, I touched upon that you can program the LCD screen with only 4 data pins instead of all 8. So there's 8 bits in a byte, and each ASCII character is represented by 8 bits, but if you're programming in 4-bit mode, you have to send the upper 4 bits first and then the lower 4 bits, or maybe it's the other way around. I'm saying that wrong. But you have to send 4 bits at a time. Half of a byte is called a nibble. This may not be the greatest step-by-step instructional video. I'm not covering each step of the way, but it should give a general idea how to go about doing this on your own. The way I created this code is I wanted most of the initialization of the LCD screen to be in the void setup in the Arduino sketch, and then once I got to the void loop, I was just going to continually print the letter P for the sake of just putting something on the screen. Okay, so I'll just do a rundown of what my code is doing. So I took all the pins that I planned on using and I defined them as variables up here. It's cut off, but this one's RS pin. I made it pin 13 on the Arduino, and the enable pin, I made it pin 12. This is kind of like the the enter pin, and then the register select kind of determines whether you're writing instructions or writing data. And watch my previous video if that's not clear. In this video where there's a hand-controlled LCD, again, this is the register select pin, and if you want to initialize the screen, then you flip this to ground, and now you're in instruction mode, and you can do all the setup commands. Once you're ready to write data, you flip it over to high for data mode. If you are writing to the LCD screen, which for most people's intents and purposes will be the case, then you tie the RW pin to ground. I have a physical LCD screen in a little case that I built, which you'll see in a minute, and inside the little box, its RW is already set to ground. I created a bunch of delay periods that are predefined just to slow things down. All the pins are outputs, and I started them off as all low. Okay, so for 4-bit mode, the first 4 bits, or first nibble, needs to be, the data pins all have to be held at low. They are already all set to that, so I just have to hit the enable pin once, and it will accept the first nibble as all zeros. I even wrote that in the comment. But then the second nibble, this is to set things up in okay, well, I'll just go quick. This sets things up in 4-bit mode, and this clears the display. This returns home. Then this puts the display on, no cursor, and then it just starts sending a bunch of P's in the void loop.
So this is a little bit of a challenge to capture all on camera, but here is the Arduino hooked up here, and I really want to just catch all the LCD screen without a glare on the little box I created. There's the contrast. So I'll just hit the reset button on the Arduino, and because of all the delays I included in the sketch or the code, it takes a little while to get to the void loop where it starts printing the letter P. Well, anyway, let's talk. I'm going to hit the reset button.